Thank you for listening to High Green, the official podcast of the Boston Maine Railroad Historical Society, where we delve into the history, memories, and legacy of the route of the Minuteman. High Green is funded by your membership in the Boston Maine Railroad Historical Society, and any views expressed on the show are solely those of the owner. If you'd like to learn more about what we do in the society or join us, you can head right on over to our website, www.B&MRRHS.org.
Perhaps this story hasn't been told in B&M circles, but it's a B&M story and it's a good one.
Oh my God, he says, I don't think I ever saw a train down here before. He was amused.
I still have that wanderlust. I still want to go back railroading.
Hello and welcome to High Green, the official podcast of the Boston Maine Railroad Historical Society. My name is Rick Kafori, and before we get started with today's episode, I just wanted to give you a little update on what the Society's been up to since our last episode. We attended the Amherst Railway Society Railroad Show in West Springfield, Massachusetts in the last weekend in January. And for anybody that we encountered there that may have come and listened to the podcast since then, it was great to meet you. Hope you enjoyed the show just as much as we did. It was wonderful to be able to meet new people and see old friends as well, and get back into the community that enjoys that event every year. We've also been extremely busy with our YouTube channel. If you haven't checked it out, definitely go do that if you get the chance. Head over to YouTube and search Boston Maine Railroad Historical Society. Not only have we been adding to our series Minuteman Steam, which is a short documentary series about the different types of steam locomotives the Boston Maine rostered, we've also started a companion series, Minuteman Diesels, and the very first episode covering the B&M's F7s aired earlier in February. We're also working on new episodes of Minuteman Tales. We have one in the works that's going to come out in the next few days about Bedford, Massachusetts and the Lexington branch, so hopefully you'll enjoy that one as well. Of course, as always, if you'd like to learn more about the organization, you can head over to our website, www.B&MRRHS.org. You can learn how to support our nonprofit organization, sign up as a member if you'd like. You can also browse our online archives. We have an extensive collection of B&M materials available digitally online. You can browse through digital copies of our bulletin and our Modeler's Notes magazines, which are available for purchase on the website, and you can also check out our online store if you're interested as well. Part of our mission statement here at the Boston Maine Railroad Historical Society is not only to preserve the memory and legacy of the B&M, but also the numerous railroads that the B&M connected with, did business with, and was associated with in the New England region. One of those better-known operations was the Rutland Railroad, a railroad primarily operating in the state of Vermont, but also in New York State as well. The Rutland was a much celebrated, if not troubled, railroad, a Yankee railroad through and through, its main traffic primarily being dairy products including milk, much of which traveled from the Rutland system over the Boston and Maine to reach big markets like Boston. Despite its interesting history, fascinating equipment, and beautiful rural backdrop, the Rutland was a troubled railroad, often encountering financial difficulties and employee issues as well. The Rutland first entered receivership in 1938, which resulted in cost-cutting, wage reduction, and a number of things to improve its financial standing. By the 1950s, the troubled Rutland had ended passenger service rather early in 1953, after an employee strike for 3 weeks. The Rutland dieselized fairly early as well in 1953, replacing its large steam roster with mostly Alco products. In early 1961, additional worker strikes and increased financial difficulties caused the Rutland to apply to the Interstate Commerce Commission to completely abandon the entire system. The measure was approved, however the state of Vermont acted quickly to try to save the business that depended on the railroad. Under Governors Ray Keyser and eventually more largely Phil Hoff, the state of Vermont acted very quickly to establish shortline operations on the former Rutland Railroad system, working with J. Wolfson from New Jersey to establish the Vermont Railway and Nelson Blount to establish the Green Mountain Railroad. Despite all its troubles, the Rutland has always been popular among railroad enthusiasts for its interesting equipment, Yankee charm, among other things. Perhaps no enthusiast knew the Rutland better than Steve Mumley. Steve just passed recently in January after a short bout with cancer, but truly loved the Rutland Railroad through and through, and he had worked for the successors, the Vermont Railway and the Green Mountain Railroad as well. Steve's father, George Mumley, worked for the Rutland Railroad starting in 1937, right up through the strike, and later worked for the Central Vermont after the Rutland Railway abandoned its entire system in the early 1960s. Thanks to Jim Dufour, who loaned us this cassette tape recording, today we hear an interview between Steve Mumley and his father, George Mumley, recorded in August 1991. George talks about some of the interesting stories he encountered while working for the Rutland from the height of the steam era right through the dieselization process and into the 1960s as well. We hope you enjoy the conversation between Steve and his father George, recounting the Rutland Railroad, one of the large railroads that the Boston and Maine regularly did business with in the New England region. Without further ado, Steve and George from 1991.
Recording stories by George Bud Mumley, Alburgh, Vermont, August of 1991. Okay, let's start.
I started railroading in 1937, and that was the height of the steam days. And we had ash pits and hostlers, mechanics to fix the engines, and it was a coal chute to Kohler engines, roundhouses, and used to put them in there, and they had a big stack on top of the roundhouse to let the smoke out. And we used to love to go up through the mountains with the steam engines when they'd bark, and the woods would echo it back at you.
Yeah. Boy, that's nice. Huh?
Oh, yeah.
Like
So we go up the mountain. We used to have two of them big Mikadoos engines, and they come out with what they called the Green Hornet. It was
the 90s.
in the they were 90s. They called them the Green Hornets.
Yep.
And we go up, and they had all new innovations on them. They had a air whistle. You press instead of pulling the cord like in the steam days, they had a button that you'd push to blow the horn. And
Oh boy.
and then what we do in the fall, we had a little trouble with the steam. We go down through Champlain. There were a lot of trees, and the leaves would get on the rails, and they pick the drivers up, and the whole engine would shake. The wheels would go brrrr. You know, it's kind of scary, you know. And but after we get out of there, it was right by the station there. The leaves were falling in the fall, and it made the track slippery. The engineer put the sand down, and after we get out of there, we take off again. Yeah. And so we went up the mountain. We used to always have a helper because those days there were no tractor trailers, and everything went by rail.
Yeah.
Everything. All the gas, tank, well, it was everything. Everything.
How about the helper coming up to Cherubusco?
Oh.
Tell us how you used to cut that off and how that ran.
Yeah. We'd go up to Cherubusco at the top of the mountain. After we left Champlain, we start upgrade, and we had a helper. This was steam days, and we get up to the top of the mountain, and we cut we get water for the steam engine, the big one behind. One of them big Green Hornets, we called them, and we'd have to take water. And while we were taking water, we'd wait for them, give them a start to break over the mountain and go downhill towards Malone.
Yeah.
And I'd get on the back of the helper and ride the rear board, the reel on the backboard and get them going good. And they toot the whistle when they could big engine could handle it behind. They toot the whistle, and they'd give me the slack. I'd pull the pin, and away we go with the helper. Go right up there just as fast as we could go. Put the air on. I'd jump off, throw the switch, back into clear, throw the switch back for the main line. We go on the Y to turn our engine till we go back to our home base at Alburgh. Yeah. And when that engine went by us, boy, she was roaring. The old steam, and boy, they were putting it right to about 100 cars. We had everything in those trains, those days, everything. And when that big train would roar by, well, we wait until they could clear, then we go around the Y, turn our helper engine around the Y, turn it right back around again, and head back to Alburgh. Yeah. And we'd have to go up to the station and get our orders to get back on the main line. Yeah. They'd give us the orders, I go get the orders, we come back, and we would run extra back to Alburgh. Yeah.
Huh. Now, did you ever know a guy named Peewee Stone?
Oh, yes, Peewee Stone. He and I worked that milk train. Every word he'd say would be damn or cuss or something.
Tell us the time about the time you ate the cat food.
Oh, yeah. Well, we pulled into Malone on the milk train. Peewee was conductor. And Ethel used to bring him his meal or sandwiches or something because he'd have to go through to Ogdensburg. Of course, we didn't have any way of getting food on the train at the time, you know. She'd bring him the sandwiches. Well, anyway, when he came back, he did head back. He had a day off. He did head back to Malone. And he goes in, when he got home, Ethel wasn't there, his wife, and said, you wouldn't got the meat. It was in the fridge. So he made some sandwiches for himself. It was made out of the cat food. So he got mad when he heard that Ethel said, well, you ate the cat food. Peewee said, well, I thought that was meat for a sandwich. Well, I should know that was cat food. So Peewee said to her, don't you say a word that I eat the cat food. Well, Ethel couldn't. Next time she come down to the station where we were going through the next day, she couldn't hold it no longer. And she said, you know what Peewee did? And I said, no, what'd he do? Says, he had cat food sandwiches.
Ate the cat's food.
Yeah. And he made her promise not to tell me or tell anybody on the train. Told Jerry Newtown not. You didn't. Peewee eat the cat food.
You didn't tease him at all, did you?
Huh?
You didn't tease him at all.
Oh yeah, we got after him. We asked him how he liked the cat food. Yeah.
Yeah.
Went out of Alburgh on a cold, windy, snowy day. And we had a helper engine. We had 3 units, 2 steam engines and a helper engine. We had we had 190 and the other was 37. So we started out of Alburgh, and it was a policy to that the third man, it was New York state law that if you had more than 25 cars, you had to have an extra brakeman. And he was the extra brakeman. So we get up to Cherubusco. When they stopped to take water, that's when the third man would go ahead to help do the work at Malone.
Yeah.
So it was a cold, windy day at night, and we had lanterns. So the old Rutland lantern, he started out from the caboose to go ahead at Cherubusco when they were taking water. So came up, and it was a bad night. The snow was blowing hard, and it blew his lantern out. and he couldn't light it. So when after they took water and got ready to leave, he didn't show up, and the engineer and everybody looked back and never saw a light coming up. And they figured that he was going to stay in the caboose and he'd go ahead at Malone. So they started off. They tooted the whistle and started off. Toot toot, you know. So they started from Malone. So when they got to Malone, they wanted to know where the third man, how come he didn't get on at Cherubusco at the top of the mountain? They said, well, he left the caboose for the head end. And they come to find out, but we got to Malone, we started looking for where he was. Got to be somewhere. Either he's in Cherubusco or he didn't make it to Malone. So after searching the train, we found him in a hopper car. He was dead.
Oh, what was this guy's name?
Donut. D-O-N.
Yeah.
His name was Donut. We got him. He was an older man that came during the war when we couldn't get any. The boys were all
Service, yeah.
in the service, and he was an older man, but he had a little railroad experience. So finally, searching the train, climbed up in this empty hopper, about halfway of the train, and he was down in the hopper. Went down and he was dead. It was 20 below zero that night. And going down, after we went downhill, the train would pick up to 45, 50, 55 miles an hour downhill, you know.
Yeah, and we get the coal dust.
And the coal dust choked him, and the cold air froze him.
Oh.
This is another tragedy. It was one of the men I worked with. There was a helper engine had gone through to Norwood, New York, where we had to deliver to the New York Central, our train. And the government inspector was there, and he said there was too much steam blowing by that engine would obstruct your view to the cylinders. So they had to send it back to Alburgh to have shop it. So they came down with that light engine back to Alburgh from Norwood, New York. So when they, so on the way, there was a switcher over at Ross's Point, across the lake, was doing their work, delivering the CN DNA. They had two connections over
The
there.
Alburgh switcher used to go Ross's Point.
The switcher.
Yeah.
The switcher was over to Ross's Point, delivering the cars and picking up the interchange. And so this engine came down, but the switcher had left Ross's Point and headed for Alburgh over the trestle. So this engine came down. The engineer was supposed to go in and see the register, and he read it wrong. So they started out, and the switcher was only going 10, 15 miles an hour because they had no pony wheels on the front end. It was only restricted speed.
Yeah.
And we're hauling cars back to Alburgh. So and they didn't put markers out on the caboose, but they put daylight markers out with just hung the markers up,
Yeah.
denoting the rear end of the train. So they come off the bridge, and the switcher was just inside of the little woody section off the end of the bridge,
Yeah.
on a little slight curve. And with the steam blowing from that helper engine that was supposed to be repaired, didn't see the switcher. Smashed right into the caboose. It was Christmas Eve. And the engineer said, well, we're going home for Christmas. He opened the throttle right up. They were only traveling 10 miles an hour, and he was going 30, 35. Smashed right into that caboose.
That was old Joe Favreau now, wasn't it?
And
Swing Joe.
the flagman, run out on the rear when he saw the headlight.
Yeah.
and tried to throw out a fusee, but didn't have time. They killed him right there. Put him right up on top of the engine. Killed him instantly. So the conductor was inside the caboose, and when he saw that, they thought that, of course they had a car knocker that he'd come from Alburgh before and inspect the cars before we picked him up.
Yeah.
And he always put his big light on the back end, but that night he didn't. He had one of those, you fill them with,
Oh yeah, they had some kind of gas they put in them.
yeah, and there were gas lights.
Yeah.
He always put it on the back platform lit. That night he didn't.
They would have seen it.
They never saw that caboose, and they went on the rear of the train. He opened up that thing just like a watermelon, went right into the caboose.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, killed Joe.
You used to work with Joe, didn't you?
The irony of the whole thing is that Joe wanted me to go with him because we were working. He said, "We'll go. If you want to come with me, George, we'll work the night job when it's so hot in the daytime. Then we can switch back onto the daytime when the weather's better." So I said, "No, I'm going to stay where I am. You know, if it hadn't, that could have been me back there.
Yeah.
Instead of Joe."
Yeah, you used to work with him. Yeah.
And it's irony to know, Stephen, that how many times that I've had come close to being killed that I didn't.
Mm.
It is really something. The time of the Runaway car in
Oh yeah, up there in
Malone Junction,
Yep.
I could have been killed very easily, but I wasn't.
Mm.
And there's 7 or 8 fellows I work with were all killed.
Yeah. Pretty dangerous business.
Oh yes, it was heavy equipment we handled, you know.
Yeah. No radios, nothing.
No radios, it was all hand signals and old kerosene lanterns and huge steam engines.
Yep.
It was a real thing. Well, we had this local freight, and we used to have these LCL cars, you know, we'd have to unload freight at each station.
Yep.
So we went into Chateauguay, and the conductor, Fred Samoran, says, "You can go up and do the switching, and I'll keep the other brakeman here to help unload the car." So I said, "Okay." So I go out, and I pull the pin ahead of the weight car that we had unloading, and we had to go up in the yard. We had cattle cars up there, and feed cars, coal, and I was going to do the switching. So I pulled the pin, and I motioned the engineer ahead just a little bit with you, just a little wave of my hand. Just pull away so I won't have to hold the pin up. We'll come away. Okay. So they took right off. You know, I just wanted to pull ahead a little off the pin. We had those motions that would say off the pin.
Yeah.
So they took off, and they run right over the derail and derailed the engine.
Uh-oh. Who's the engineer?
Riley.
Oh.
Larry Riley was the engineer. And Stearns was the fireman. He never looked at, see, the derail was on the track. There was a derail. I just motioned my head a little so I could go up and throw that derail. So they took right off, and I said, "Oh my goodness." Then went over that derail. It was used to put house cars there, see, and they had a derail.
Yeah.
It was downgrade, so anything, somebody let the brake off of those cars, they wouldn't want them in line. So they had a derail on that siding. So, oh my goodness. I says, "I'll bet you," all of a sudden it came to a stop. I go up, and here's the engine on the ground.
Bill must have liked that.
Oh, so they had to bring another engine in from Alburgh and put the railers down, you know, a re-railer.
Yeah. And
we got the engine back on the track, and I wasn't there then at the time because I couldn't go anywhere then because they'd stopped. So anyway, we had to have the investigation. So the superintendent come up one day and said, we're going to have an investigation on how you derailed that engine in Jetty Gate. And, well, I told him, had me in and asked me questions. Well, I said, I pulled the pin and just motioned my head easy to get, so the pin kept dropping back, see?
Yeah.
But I didn't, the guys that work in the car, and if I hadn't pulled the pin and it pulled the car away, the guys would have been hurt.
Yeah.
So I motioned to my head, and I was going to walk off after I'd pulled the pin for the cars we had to set off and pick up. And what happened was, when they went over the derail, I went up, and the engineer said, I knew that derail was there, but I somehow forgot about it. And the fireman said the same thing.
Yeah.
So when he took me in the office to, why didn't I throw the derail? So I told him, I said, I'm all to blame. I should have gone up and thrown the derail first, then walked back to 15 cars, pulled the pin. So I said, I'm all to blame. I should have thrown the derail first. But it was a long walk down there to throw the derail, then walk way back, pull the pin. We wanted to save time because we were getting late, wanted to get in. So we went outlaw. We call outlaw in those days, You could work 16 hours, and that's it.
Yeah.
In those days, 16 hours was, a lot of times, we outlawed.
Yeah.
We had so much work to do. And, well, anyway, he got the engineer in there, Riley. Riley says, I'm all to blame because I knew the derail was there. And I didn't, and the fireman said the same thing. Everybody took the blame. So the superintendent came back to me and he said, you all took the blame. What am I going to do? You all took the blame. Well, he said, there wasn't anybody hurt.
Evidently nobody got demerits on it.
No, he said, I've never made an investigation yet where everybody on the crew took the blame.
Warren took it too.
So he patted me on the back and said, George, you were just telling the truth.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Do you remember Bill Lovett quite well, do you?
Oh, yeah. His son worked there,
Johnny, yeah.
Come up on the milk train out of Rutland. Yeah, his son was there. And he left for the West,
Yeah, got him real grand.
Yeah. And, of course, he was trainmaster. The old man got him a good job,
Took care of him.
Yeah. And,
A lot of people didn't like Johnny Lovett.
No. Well, he pushed his weight a little,
Yeah.
Well, anyway,
Let's see what else we got here. Well, tell about the wild box car ride there you had.
Fort Malone.
Yeah.
Okay. So, those days, I'm going back in the 30s and or 40s. There was no tractor trailers that hauled automobiles. So we used to have these cars that would haul automobiles. They'd chain them up, put another one underneath them. They were auto cars with big double doors. And we deliver all these cars to the dealers all along the line. So I was working Malone Switcher at the time. This is steam days. No, I take that back. We just got rid of the steam engine. We had a diesel. First diesel. And they put it in Malone Yard so we could switch with.
Yeah.
It was one of the 400s.
Yeah, okay.
And we went over to Malone Junction. So we backed in on the house and took the empty auto car, and we're going to deliver it back to New York Central. So we go to New York Central. We had to pick up over there too. They interchange, and we'd do that work. And so when we got the loaded, we dropped it in. What you call a drop is get a little start, pull the pin, and
Let it go in.
and throw the switch and let it go in towards the house.
Yeah.
So The other brakeman I was working with was Robert Dragon, and he spotted it right on the platform to unload. He wrote it right in there. Whether the car stopped or not, we don't know. And anyway, he stopped the car right on the spot. He put the brake up, he said.
That was the day before.
Yeah.
So you knew the car brake was okay.
Yeah. And so when we went over that time, the other brakeman pulled the pin on the engine, and we're downhill, so we're going to drop it by us.
This is the next day when it's empty.
Yeah, when it's empty, we went and picked it up on the back of our engine. See, then we went to Malone Junction with it.
Yeah.
So when we got Malone Junction, there was no place to run around the car unless you went to, I don't know how many miles down them long tracks to just run around one empty car.
Yeah.
So it's downhill, we'll drop it in, what they call a drop.
Yep.
So Bob, the guy that rode the car in it, Malone, I get up on the brake. We dropped it in. Of course, it's a pretty steep grade right there. I start, it's fine, he got away, and he dropped off the engine, threw the switch, and I went down the siding with it. Well, there was no goddamn brake. And I was going up to at least 20 to 25 miles an hour. Right down that long, it was pretty near a mile track. The more I went, the faster it went.
Yep.
So they see me go when I was just supposed to stop it in the clear. They went back with the engine and took down they went the next track down and chased me. I hollered at them when I went by, no brake, no brake. Boy, and I was going down that track. I wound it. It must have got tangled underneath or something, but I couldn't stop that car. Down the bottom, there was a little sag, and it slowed a little bit. I even got a hold of the chain
Tried that, yeah.
and pulled on it, so, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Put the brake shoes on that car. So when we hit that little sag, the car slowed and the engine went by me. They chased me.
Yeah.
Right down the next track. That's the track that they went in on to begin the drop. So I said, oh boy, she's going right down. Got down to probably 10, 12 miles an hour. So, look what Gates got. Well, anyway, we went, the engine went by me. I said, oh boy, they're going to go down ahead of me, and then when I come down with it, they'll catch me. So then I started picking up speed after I got out of the sag, still downhill. So when I hit the sag, the engine picked up speed. Were chasing me down the next track. And they went ahead of me, and I said, oh boy, I'm all set now. All I got to do is when they get the other end, I'll just couple on the engine. Stop me.
Yeah.
Well, what happened was the fireman got off, and he run like the dickens to throw a switch. Those are spring switches. He could have gone through them, see?
Yeah.
But the engineer was hollering at him, there's derails down here, derails. I don't want to derail this engine. So it slowed him right down. And the fireman was motioning, come on, because there's no derails, because he run down ahead of the engine.
Yeah.
So,
That was Earl King, wasn't it?
yeah, Earl was running like a fool, and no derails. He was motioning the engineer to come. Well, it was too late. I went through the switch, run through it, and I was headed. I don't know where. I thought it was on the main line. I was headed right out to Montreal.
Huh.
Yeah, that's right on the main line.
Yeah.
I said, if I get on that main line, it's all downhill. Where am I going to go? Anyway, they come behind me and nail that car
Right on
with the switches, and the pins drop. Usually, 9 times out of 10, you hit a moving car with the engine, just give it a more start.
Yeah.
They hit it just right when the pin dropped. And when it did, it almost threw me off the end of the car. You know,
Yeah. Yeah, quick stop.
it was a quick stop and a jar, you know. I was so exhausted. that I was shaking like a leaf. I had no strength at all, Stephen.
Couldn't get off the car.
I couldn't get off the car. My legs were shaking. My arms were tired. I lay right down on the car. Earl come over and he was hollering up. He says, "Are you all right?" And I said, "I'm all right, but I can't get off right now. I got to get my strength back." And everything was flowing through my arms and my legs. You know,
Yeah.
it was just like electric shocks. I was exhausted. Anyway, I said, "Give me time, and I get my strength back. I'll come down the ladder." So it took me a good 15 minutes, you know. Finally, I said, "I'll try it." I lay right down on the catwalk, you know.
Yeah.
And finally I get on my knees, in my hands, and I had to turn around to go down the ladder.
Yeah.
And when I got enough strength back to go down the ladder, I climbed back down. And I said, "Where does this track lead to?" There was a great big embankment with a red light. There was a great big pile of stop. The stop ends to come out of the yard so it wouldn't go on the main line.
Oh, okay, yeah, dead end track. Yeah.
Dead end track. It was a great big mound with a red light on it.
Yeah.
And if I'd have hit that on that car when I had no strength, I'd have been flying through the air.
Gone.
I've been gone.
Yeah. Huh. Cheeseman?
Another one of my,
What's his name? Dizzy Cheeseman? No.
It was another, one of his brothers. Got done?
Yep.
So, I was called for the afternoon switcher in Alburgh, and we had two switchers, one day, one night. And I went down to work, and they had this friend of mine, their telebrakeman, laying on the lawn. I said, "What's the matter with him?" They said, "He's dead." I said, "What do you mean, dead?" He says, "He just got killed here in the yard."
Ooh.
And what happened was that we were short of men. It was during the war times. And he had to double over, work two shifts. It was a terrible hot day.
Yeah.
And our tracks were awful close together. And he was riding the side of a boxcar when they went down through the yard. And they said he got kind of overcome by the heat, and he put his head back and struck the car on the adjoining track with his head.
Huh.
And it just crushed his skull.
Huh.
And then there was that Dick Courtois that I went to work on the CB after Rutland went out of business. I went over on the CB, and Dick Courtois was riding a car, coal car. He used to work with us.
Yeah.
He went on to Central Vermont. He was riding his coal car up, a lot of snow on the track, and they jumped the track, and he was riding the side. He run into his own train. Hung him right up crushed him. Then there was later years on Amtrak is when the conductor I worked with for years, Vern Church,
Yeah.
was killed in the Amtrak wreck.
Yeah. Standing in the vestibule.
I lost 12 guys died in my 41 years of railroad. Were killed. Well, Peewee there, he was a free spirit, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And everything was okay with Peewee. But boy, when he'd get mad, his face get red as a beet, you know?
Yeah.
His face be red as the devil. Well, anyway, he kind of used the language the wrong way, you know, but he was really chicken-hearted. So he went down on Harrison Place in Malone, where I was up there at the time, working. I was brakeman, he was conductor. And he went down the street and he bought a duck. They had some ducks there, you know. So he bought a duck. He was going to take them home and he was going to kill them and dress them and they'd have duck. Well, he'd had a few beers, you know. And he got thirsty again. So he took the duck under his arm. He walked into the bar room. He wanted 2 beers. The bartender said, 2? Well, he says, 1 for the duck and 1 for me. So he said, you got a plate? The guy said, yeah. Well, give me a soup dish. So he took the bottle. He had 2 bottles of beer. He had 1 for him, 1 for the duck. He poured the beer in the bowl, and he put the duck up there, and the duck lacked it up. The duck was drinking that beer to beat that with his bill. So Peewee finished his beer. So he said to the bartender, you got a string or anything in there? And he says, yeah. So he gave Peewee, and Peewee took the duck out, tied a string around his neck, started walking down the street with the duck. The duck was waddling all over, drunker than the dickens. You had to kind of pull him along. He was waddling all over and falling over and everything. That duck.
Oh, good.
Oh, gee whiz. I tell you, that guy was a character.
Oh,
He was always doing something that was unusual.
Oh, geez, really, he picked on that agent there
And
all the time.
Then he goes and gets the loudest polka dot hat you ever saw. And he put that on.
Oh, geez, how big those were. I remember seeing those.
Oh, yeah. And he
Polka dot hat.
polka dot.
Oh,
They
geez.
have the brightest polka dot you ever saw. And he'd come out and he'd look at you as if, funny, he would turn his head a little bit and look at you as if he was going to say something about his hat. I didn't dare because, boy, he'd probably call me every name in the book.
How about, was that him with the cars on the ground there at Malone?
Oh, yeah. Didn't I tell you that one and the other one? When
Yeah, I guess you
we
did.
counted the cars and we told Peewee, I said, we got enough in there. 23 cars I was going to hold. He said, no. He said, you're wrong. You counted wrong. He said, you got 2 more to go in on that track. If you don't, he says, I got to go way up there and set them off and then come back and get them, and we could push them in there. We pushed them in there right over the 2 of them over the derail, the other end of the track.
He must have got the merit for that.
I get out of it somehow.
Yeah. Well,
He was a smart old duck,
Yeah, he knew everybody in Rutland.
and he was our general chairman.
Yeah.
That protected our jobs and everything.
Yeah.
So he goes down to Rutland, to meet with the superintendent. We wanted a raise. And we were under this, they were cutting our pay, see?
Yeah.
At the time, it got a little hard going, and they started cutting our pay. So, here he goes down, puts his fist on the table. Lovett says, the general manager said, we can't give it to you. We just don't have it. We're not going to give it to you. Peewee slammed his fist down the table. Oh, he said, wait a minute. He went and took a penny out of his pocket and he slammed it on the table. He says, there's your compensation. He went down the stairs. Lovett followed him right down, right at the bottom of the stairs, and he was yelling at him. They were screaming, both of them.
Yeah, he fought for the men.
Oh, boy, he got that guy Lovett into a tantrum.
I can believe it.
Oh, yeah. There it goes. I guess I'll have to start over again. We had a little interruption, huh?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, the conductor, Fred Saborn, was a very immaculate dresser, and he was the conductor. Of course, he didn't have to get out and do the work. He just supervised everything, and he'd come to work with the nicest pinstripe coat on, white with pinstripes, and he was dressed right up good. So this was during the war, and we had to go down and Sheridan Ironworks in Champlain and get, they made airplane wings for the planes. And we had these open-end cars where they'd load the wings through they were so long, it'd be the whole length of the car, 50 foot long. And they'd load that car with airplane wings. And so we went down one time and we were there a long time because they had one more they hadn't quite finished. And so the engine, we had steam then, and the old steam days, and The engine was set there for about an hour. And finally Fred walked down to see what was wrong. We didn't come back from the shop. And when he came down, he was standing by the engine, and about the time he got there, the car was ready to go. So we went to start it up, and when they pulled the throttle, it'd been laying there for so long that the black stuff would come out of the stack. And it spewed right out of the stack, and it came down just like rain, right on his beautiful jacket. It was a polka dot jacket. Boy, when he got it. Well, anyway, he was an awful violent man. He just cussed and everything else at the engineer because he should have put his shuttlecocks on to blow the steam first before he pulled the throttle, to blow that out on the side, not up in the air. Well, anyway, he was covered with black water, and he was a mess. And boy, was he mad. He had to work all the rest of the day like that. So we never saw him again. I guess he was too ashamed to get out of the caboose. We never saw him again until we tied up in Malone. And he said, that engineer did that to me. And the engineer said, well, I didn't. What are you doing down here? He said, those guys are doing a good job down here. You didn't have to come down. Well, he says, it's your own fault. You got peppered. He was a cribbage fan. He loved to play cribbage. And so we're on the milk train, and then this passenger and combination, passenger and milk. And in between stations, we didn't have anything to do, so we'd bring out the cribbage board. And we'd play cribbage, 5 cents a hole. Yeah. So he was a very good cribbage player. Boy, and he used to take me for a ride all the time. And he always wanted to get some money out of me, and he'd laugh at me. So this time, I got on the street. I got the cards. Boy, and I put it to him good, too. So all of a sudden, I never saw you be so lucky, he said. Never, never, never be so lucky as that. So we had to stop at Alburgh, let some passengers off, and take on a couple. And we had to do some milk work, so I went up ahead, and I was gone quite a while. And I come back, and he says, well, you're going to leave there with Chatty Gay. That's another half hour before we get there, and we'll play some more cribbage. So we started. Boy, my luck still held. And I get the nicest cards, And finally, when we got Chatty Gay, boy, he got mad, so he took that pack of cards. I said, you fix those cards when I was up doing the work there at Alburgh, getting them milk cars set off, taking care of the passengers. You were back here, and I said, you fix that deck. No, he says, I didn't. Well, after I beat him, he said, I told you I didn't fix that deck. So we pegged up a couple more holes, Stephen, and I beat him again. He jumped right up and took the cards, and he threw them right out the back of the coach. He threw them right there flying all over the tracks.
Didn't Peewee like to make you, have you make the calls on the rainy days?
Oh, yeah. We get a thunderstorm. We used to have to pull in, clear our train up, see? And we pull in on the side, and we call the operator out of the box there at the earphones, and we'd ring. Had a ringer. We'd ring the station, he'd answer, and I'd say, well, so our number of our train was in the clear up here. And he said, you can have a clear block. We had the clear semaphore signals that would give them a clear, call them clear blocks, Yep. Give them the green light and the green signal. Well, anyway, it was thundering. It wasn't raining yet, but thundering and lightning. Peewee says, George, you go up and clear us up there, he said, in the box. And I said, well, you got to do what the conductor says. You got to go and do it. Right. So I went in the box, and he was looking out the window. We had those lightning wicket. All of a sudden, boy, that lightning hit that line. It came right into my ears.
Snap.
Crack! And I took the headphones off, and I threw them. I could see Peewee was laughing like a fool in there. The coach, he said, he got it.
Yeah, that made his old day.
Yeah. Oh, so I said, that's enough of that. We'll pull down. I'm not going back in that box again. And I put it away. We pulled down the siding down to the other end. And I says, I'll go clear us up down here, not any more in that box. Oh, boy.
Those were the days, huh?
Oh, geez, it was always something. Always something.
And we're going to be talking about the Rutland Milk Train on the ONLC, train number 7 and 8. That would be number 7 north and number 8 south. Okay, and what we're going to do is talk about a typical day's work as we went to work in Alburgh and work north on number 7. Okay?
Yeah, going north.
Okay.
Where's it? Just talk?
All right, ready to roll.
Okay. We get on number 7 at Alburgh, change the crews from the main line crews, would get off, and we'd get on and go to Ogdensburg, New York. And we'd go down, the first duty was to go down back into the ice house and load the LCL cars, that's less carload, with ice. And they had a crew down there that used to put the ice, and of course we'd help them drag the ice in. There were 60, 70 pound cakes, 80 pounds. And then we'd have to divide them up, put them so many cakes in one end, so many in the other end, so the car wouldn't be loaded where it would
be off
balance, where the couplings wouldn't, they would come apart.
Yeah.
So we'd balance the load, and we'd ice up 3 of them. And then we'd leave there, and we'd go to, our next stop would be Champlain. And then we'd fly the car by, and we put the engine towards the Sheridan and Ironworks there at Champlain, and the car down the main line. Then we'd go back with the engine, get our train, and we'd pull down those onto the car and push it up to the Champlain Creamery and spot it up there at the platform. And our next stop would be Ellenburg. They took what we call the bottle cars. They were thermos glass line tanks. There were 2 tanks, one on each end of the car. And they used to have little windows up above that used to put the pipes through to pump the milk in. And these tanks all had a little glass in near the top, so when the milk, they could see that when the tanks were full.
Oh, yeah.
So we'd spot one up there, and then we go to, let me see, where was the next stop?
Probably Cherubusco after Ellenburg.
No, in Ellenburg, and we'd spot one at Ellenburg, one of the tanks.
Yeah.
And then we'd leave there, and we'd go to Malone Junction, and we'd spot one in the Rutland Yard at the Creamery at Malone Junction.
Didn't you have one at Chateauguay, though?
Now, Chateauguay had by Chateauguay, I skipped Chateauguay, but
yeah,
we used to spot a tank in there, tank car. Then Malone Junction, and then we go to Bangor, then we set out the LCL cars to the General Ice Cream Corporation there would load them for us in the morning coming back. Then we go to Norwood, and we leave one of the tanks for the what was that? I don't remember what they're.
Norwood and St. Lawrence?
Yeah, the NSDL, Norwood and St. Lawrence.
Okay, yeah.
And we'd leave them a tank. And then we go to Lisbon, New York, that's this side of Ogdensburg, and we set out another tank. Then we went to Ogdensburg.
But by that time, you just had the engine.
Yeah, we did. We'd had a coach and the baggage car and combo. We used to carry passengers too.
Okay.
And so that was what we did going up, going north.
You had to Ogdensburg, cut off the train, put the engine away?
Yeah. Put the engine away. And of course we had steam hoses in the wintertime, and we'd have to disconnect.
Yeah. Okay. They had steam heat there in the yard?
Yeah. And
When you had
Then we'd put the engine on the engine house track, and they'd go to the engine house. The next morning, we'd leave. We'd get up early.
you had a rooming house, you stayed there.
Yeah, yeah. We stayed at a rooming house overnight, and the hotel would give us a room for 50 cents.
Boy, that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, we used to stay up there. The only trouble is the fire station was awful close by, and they started that fire. The siren would take us right out of bed. But it was 50 cents.
Couldn't beat that price.
You know? And so we paid our own those days.
The railroad didn't. Okay.
Railroad didn't pay it. Then we had another place, a boarding house that charged us 50 cents a night. And that was close to the station.
Okay.
So it was the first house up on, we'll go up the hill off the station, and it was the first house on the left. And so we decided for the same price, a lot closer, especially in the winter. We didn't have to walk so far.
Oh, yeah.
Well, anyway, we used to stay there. And then there was another boarding house there that boarded the railroad men. Her name was Mrs. Bastian. And she used to have a lot of roomers there. She had New York Central men and Rutland men.
Uh-huh.
And, well, anyway, we got set off at Ogdensburg. And next morning, we'd get up early, 5 o'clock. We'd go right down to work. And we'd get our engine off the engine house and couple onto the train. In the wintertime, we'd hook up the steam hoses and get the steam through the train. And then we'd leave on schedule.
What, 6:30?
Yeah. And then we'd get up around, we'd get to Lisbon. We'd have to pick up our tank car. We set out. It was loaded. And we'd pick that up. And we'd go to Norwood. And then we get another one there off the JNLC.
Norwood and St. Lawrence.
Norwood and St. Lawrence, I mean to say.
Yeah.
And then our next stop would be, let me think now. Let's see, no. No. Then we go to,
Let's see, probably.
North Lawrence. North Lawrence would have.
That's a big
I
station.
forgot that. Going up, we'd set up
Yeah, that's big. That's
these
big
flat
railroad.
cars with 2 tanks on them
Yes, sir. Yeah.
at North Lawrence. So we'd go down to North Lawrence, down the hole there by the river. We'd go down there and we'd pick that one up.
Okay.
And one day when we were going down there one day to get that car, they were doing some work on the creamery. And they had a dynamite. They set off some dynamite, and the stones were hitting the cars and everything. I jump off and cover up my head. And it was an awful boom. Boy.
Didn't let you know they were coming in there.
Oh, that was the Borden Ice Cream Company, or the Borden Creamery.
Oh, boy.
And it was Borden. Of course, they couldn't have warned us. They didn't think we'd be coming down in there. And they let that blast go. Boy, I'll tell you. Well, anyway, we'd pick that car up, and then our next stop would be...
How about Winthrop? Nothing there?
nothing at Winthrop, no.
Rushton?
Wait a minute. No. Oh! I forgot going up again. We had a Shaddy Gay car.
Yeah.
And we had a...
Yeah, we got Shaddy Gay.
Next station,
But,
Burke.
Oh, Burke had a car?
Burke Creamery. They had a
they had a big
tank car.
Yeah, they had a big creamery.
And so we picked that one up. And of course, Malone Junction, we had to pick that one. And of course, Bangor, we set our
Yeah, the LCL.
LCLs out. And then they'd load the platform. We always had one car for short shipments.
Okay, yeah.
And they'd have all these cans filled with ice cream mix and cream on the platform with the canvas covering them in the summer.
Yeah.
They'd throw ice in there, and so we'd have to load them. So we'd load them in the LCL cars. And then we'd pick up 2 cars besides that we had set out on the siding going north.
Yeah.
And so then we got down, of course, we got to Malone Junction. There was another tank car we spotted, and we had picked that up with a load.
Yep.
And then we go to Burke,
and we'd have another tank car to pick up.
Yep. And Chattagay.
And Chattagay had a tank car, and we'd pick that up. Then we'd leave Chattagay, we'd go to Ellenburg. Did I get Ellenburg going up?
Yep, you did. Yeah.
And,
Nothing at Cherubusco?
No.
No. Okay.
So we had one there. Of course, they used to truck it down to the creameries there. See, if they didn't have a creamery, they'd go down
Yeah.
the next town and
Okay.
that had a creamery. So we'd pick up that car, Ellenburg. That was a tank.
Yeah.
And when we'd leave there, we'd go down to Champlain.
Yep.
And Champlain, once we set out, we had an LCL car, and we'd pick that up, and then we'd have a pretty good train.
I guess yeah.
And one time that was known as $1 million milk train.
It was in the 1920s. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I forgot too. We had a car that they would load just half the car. Irona would do that.
Okay. You wait for it.
Yeah. And we'd hook up the pipes and we'd wait for them to pump in just one of the tanks full. And Burke was the same way. Half a
car, yeah.
Half a car. So we'd have to
Wait for 'em.
spot that car that we had spotted previously at Irona to load it. And they'd finish loading that full car.
Now he's talking about Irona. Isn't that the famous creamery where Mr. Buddha bought Peewee Stone a new suit?
Bought him what?
A new suit? He told Peewee if he'd stop swearing and dropping the milk cans, then he'd buy a new suit of clothes. You heard that story, haven't you? And then
No.
Peewee gets the new set of clothes, and the guy, Buddha, says, Peewee, you got to stop that cussing. You got to stop dropping these milk cans. And
Yeah.
he'd thrown them all over the place.
Yeah.
So Peewee went about 2 weeks. He didn't swear at all at Irona, and he didn't drop a milk can, see?
Yeah.
So he bought Peewee the new set of clothes, nice new suit, okay?
Yeah.
And then about a week later, Peewee comes in half drunk, swearing and hollering and cussing and dropped one of the milk cans. And Buddha says, well, Peewee, after I bought you that new suit and everything, look at your fine shape. Peewee says, go to hell, you holy roller. I got your suit of clothes. You can have it back if you want it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, he used to give us a turkey on Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah.
Right out of the store.
Well, that's pretty
They were
good.
very religious people, like you call them a holy roller.
Yeah.
He wouldn't even sell packed cigarettes.
Wow.
Cigarettes was out. No liquor or no beer, no cigarettes.
God.
That was the way it was.
Huh.
Yeah.
Let's see. So you picked up now. We got Irona. We got Champlain.
Now we got
Lots of
Champlain.
money.
We pick up Champlain. We pick up the LCL car. They'd have it loaded. See.
Yeah.
And that was heavy cream.
Yeah.
And then, and of course, we had to, when we pick up these cars, a lot of time we had to ice them.
Mm-hmm.
Ice the cans. That's what we had the ice for. We used to have an axe, one of them fire axes, that we'd bust up the.
Yep.
And we had tongs, and we'd take it and throw it up on top of the cans
Keep them cool.
to keep them cool.
Yeah. Okay.
And a lot of times we'd have so many that we'd have to ice between stations. We'd be in there.
Yep.
Putting ice on those cans between stations.
Huh.
Yeah.
So you would then get into Alburgh.
And we get into Alburgh, and we'd back in at the platform. And we'd load cans off the platform
Oh, okay. Yep.
into the LCL car.
Yep. There's a platform right across
See
the
that
station.
the mainline crew didn't do that because we had to do it because we were still in our own territory.
Yeah.
And so we'd wheel in what they had there, and we'd ice it right there.
Yeah.
And then we'd close up the car, and then the mainline crews would take over there
At the station.
at the station.
Yeah. And then go to Rutland.
Yeah. Sometimes we'd have as high as 20 cars.
Wow.
Yeah.
And wasn't there a swing job there? Wasn't there one fellow that went all the way through to Rutland?
Yeah. Swingman.
Okay. So,
We had the swingman.
an own LC guy.
Yeah. Yeah. We'd have an extra man on there because of the cream. We had to wheel them cans,
Yeah.
And we had a man there that could take one of those milk cans and throw it and whirl it 20 feet and put it right in place.
Wow.
Line them right up. Bing, 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 bing. Wheel them.
That wasn't you?
Fling them. Oh, yeah. We'd stand right there with Newtown and I and Pat Lavanchi, Ted Lavanchi.
Yep.
He was the guy inside the car. I'd give him to Jerry, wheel him in the car to Jerry, and Jerry'd spin him down to, what's his name, and he'd bang him right in place.
Wow.
Line them right up just like you would soldiers. Boy, could. And those, a lot of them had the loose handles.
Yeah.
And them handles would, you'd give them a spin, and them handles would go right out straight.
Wow.
You know, they'd come right in the gas.
Yeah.
Bing, bing, and you could hear them rattle in there. He was lining them right up.
Boy, he knew how to do it.
Yeah. We got so we could spin a can 15, 20 feet.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's something.
Then you had to grab it when it was coming at you.
Yeah.
Then give it another spin to the next guy.
Did you ever spill any?
Huh?
Did you ever spill one?
It would tip them over, but the covers were sealed down with lead.
Oh, okay.
They had these lead things that go around the little holes in the cover of the milk can, see?
Yeah. Okay.
And then they'd seal it.
Yeah.
Down to the handle.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They put a lead seal on them.
Yeah.
So we'd miscue once in a while, but not too often. We tip them over, but we could load probably 30 cans there in 10 minutes, almost. Just wang them right off the platform, right into the car, and then down the corner they go.
Hard to believe they ship milk in a can like that.
Yeah.
Today's standards.
Yeah. You see, the General Ice Cream General Ice Cream Company at Bangor, that was all ice cream mix.
Yep.
And that would go to Boston, Springfield, New York.
Wow.
And we'd have to keep a record of everything.
Every can.
We'd have what we call a milk report.
Yeah.
You'd have to fill that out. So many cans goes here, Springfield, so many cans to New York, so many cans wherever they were going. You'd have to make this big milk list.
Yep. Huh.
And then we come to Alburgh, and then the main line crew would take over. And then when they'd get in Rutland, they'd have to go get a helper to pull them into the Rutland station.
Huh.
Proctor Hill or Proctor, you know, they'd have to get down there.
Yeah.
They had a helper engine. They had so much milk and cars that they'd have to get a helper engine.
Yeah, because they picked up all along the way.
They picked up Virgins and all in places down through there. Kept picking up.
Now, Alburgh used to ship a bulk car, a tank car.
Yeah.
Now, must be the switcher put that on, huh?
The switcher would take care of that one.
That's what I thought. Yep.
That was a tank.
Yeah, that went right up until
Model car.
Yep.
Yeah.
They shipped that right up until the time of the strike.
Yeah. So the switching crew would be up, and they'd get that car when the milk would come in.
Put it on.
They'd put a bigger engine on.
Yeah.
Passenger engine, one of the big high wheelers.
Oh, okay.
And we had the smaller 50 class.
Oh, okay, yeah. And they put
And
probably put one of the 70 or 80s on there.
they did. They put the big ones on.
Yeah.
And we'd cut our engine off and go down in the yard. They go down in the yard with it, down to the engine house. And while they were gone, the switcher would come and put that milk car on.
Yeah.
The tank, couple it on.
Yeah. Oh.
Then after the switcher get out of the way, the engine would come down to go south. They'd couple up. But it was a busy thing.
Oh,
And of course we had passengers, and they a lot of times we had to make out we had to get cash from them.
Yeah.
And make out a rebate for them, punch a wherever they were going.
Ticket, yeah.
And then we get in, we'd have to take the cash, and they had a wax, or you'd take a match and light it.
Yeah.
To seal the envelopes with the cash in it.
Send it to Rutland.
Send it to Rutland.
Huh.
And we had to put on the outside of the envelope the amount of cash that was in there.
Yeah.
Plus a copy of the rebate.
Yeah. Huh.
Of the ticket.
Yep.
So we had these big books, and each had a carbon, so we can make two. See, one went to the passenger, and the other went to Rutland with the cash.
Yep. Huh.
And of course, we had we had a mail car too, and we baggage car. Then we have to in the wintertime the the coach had coal burning stoves,
Okay, yeah.
and I used to have to get started to get the coal fire going.
Yep.
And we had a coal bin. We used to burn chestnut coal, hard coal.
That burned pretty good.
Yeah, and I'd bank it up good and give it a good start and shut it down, and that was. And then when we had an extra, I used to have to leave the coach and go up and help the boys with the cars. Yeah.
Now, that was the milk train. Now we're going to talk about when you worked the Malone Way freight between Alburgh and Malone.
Yeah.
And, the LCL car and how that worked and stuff.
Yeah.
All the switching you had.
Yeah. We had very busy those days.
Yeah.
Pretty near every station was work.
Oh, yeah.
They had cars all over the place. And we had these speed cars, GLF who was in, and cars of feed. All that came by rail those days. And we'd start out in, it'd be one at Moore's and down Champlain on that spur track at Champlain.
Yeah.
And then we'd have the big Sheridan Ironworks.
Yeah.
Who spot cars of coke in there to heat their furnaces.
Uh-huh.
And then they used to ship out, during the war, they'd ship out. We'd had to get these cars off the Central Vermont that had an open end.
Mm-hmm.
And they put these airplane wings in there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they made airplane wings and parts of airplanes.
Huh.
And then we'd, and during the spring of the year, we had what we call a seed car.
Mm-hmm.
The farmers' seeds.
Oh, yeah.
Bags and bags and bags of them.
Wow.
The car would be full when we would come to Alburgh. And we had the LCL car going up to Malone. We had to, and the operator at the stations would have to come out and check each bag of seed, hayseed stuff, full. Boy, we used to have it. And we'd get all done. It was piled in there. So we cut them along. We'd have 4 or 5 bags of feed that we dug out underneath the piles after we left the station.
Oh, wow.
And we had to bring them back next day.
Huh.
Yeah.
So when you worked the LCL car, you used to keep that right to the end of the train.
Yeah.
You pull up the
We
platform.
pull a platform.
Yep.
And then we had this Manette's furniture
Oh, yeah, but at Moore's.
at Moore's, and of course the Sheridan Ironworks Champlain was a big thing. That all these steel bars, castings of all sorts and kinds.
Yeah.
And then Manette would have his stoves,
Yep.
his mattresses, beds. We'd have to unload all that stuff.
And the agent would check it in.
Check it all in. The operator would be out there with his check, and we'd check everything out.
Yep.
Then we'd unload this. Of course, one LCL car would be steel bars, and they'd be kind of grease-like,
Yep.
We'd have to have gloves, special gloves to handle them, and we'd drag them in the station into the freight house.
Yep.
And they'd come get them, see, from Sheridan.
Oh, Sheridan.
Sheridan Ironworks.
Yep, Champlain, yeah.
Yeah. And boy, one time, it must have been rough handling or something. One of them big castings, they were cams, big cams, and they were turned down. They'd ship them rough, seeing them, they'd be turned.
Yep.
Wherever they were going, they had a lathe that would turn them from the rough,
Okay.
And went in opened the car one time to go in there, and here's one of these great big castings right through an electric stove.
Oh, wow.
Right? It's an electric stove.
Made an awful dent.
Oh, boy. Oh, we used to have cigarettes.
Yeah.
Lucky Strikes, Chesterfields,
Really?
Old Golds, carton after carton of them.
Gee. Huh.
Yeah.
I suppose just about everything got shipped that way, tires.
Oh, boy, we had everything. Everything you could think of.
Yeah, of course, with no trucks.
We had plowshares.
Yeah.
Going to Ellenburg and all that farming district.
Yep.
And we had farm machinery, small stuff that we could handle in a car, see. And we used to even load pea washers.
Yep.
Great big crates of it washes the peas.
Okay.
All that stuff came by rail.
Yeah.
There was the trucks didn't give us any problem.
No, not nowadays. No.
In the wintertime, we'd get an awful storm, and the bread truck couldn't get up to Alburgh and them places. The roads weren't plowed or anything.
Yeah.
And we'd load it in the caboose, and we'd get up there to Alburgh. We'd unload it.
Huh.
The guy gave us rolls and cakes and everything. We'd only take it for him.
Glad to get his bread.
Good, glad to get rid of it. So you get it up there. The only way you could do it.
Yeah.
'Cause we used to have some fierce storms.
Never charged for that?
Oh no, he'd give it to us, you know.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
For taking it.
Doing it.
Yeah,
Oh, that's a pretty good deal.
yeah. So we'd have cakes and cookies and
Yeah, of course, those days you cooked on the old caboose stove.
yeah. Well, boy, I'll tell you, railroad in those days was rugged stuff.
Yeah.
We come out one time on the milk train. It was in the wintertime. We got stuck at Burke, a cup in Burke,
Yeah.
and we could not move. The engine wheels would be spinning. We couldn't.
Huh.
So we had to cut them off one car at a time. So we got quite a heavy train, see?
Yeah.
And go up and set them off, come back down, get another car, and take that up and set that off.
Gee.
And back down we go, and then we could get a hold of probably a couple, three this time, you know, so we had a track made.
Yeah.
And we'd take them up and set them off, and that reversed our whole train.
That's true. Yep.
So then we get back up to Burke. We'd have to put them all back in order again.
God, that was a lot.
Oh, and steam hoses, you know, it was all steam hoses.
Yep.
You had a hammer, you carried it with you all the time.
Yep. Boy.
You pound those clips and put those steam hoses together. It was quite a trick putting them together, you know. We had to hold them just right.
You wouldn't make it, yeah.
And then you used to get them when they were set off on the siding and they'd freeze. You couldn't twist them.
Yep.
You know?
Boy.
Then you'd have to take the warm one and twist it way up, hold it way up, and
Thaw out the other one.
put it in place, yeah. Oh, boy. A lot of times we couldn't twist it, and we'd have to we'd take the ones we had on the train with the steam coming through, and we'd blow the steam right on it.
Get it thawed out.
Thaw it out so that we could twist it enough to hook it up.
Boy.
Yeah. Yeah, we had claw hammers. That was part of your,
Gear. Huh?
that was the gear. You carried that hammer wherever you went.
Boy.
Yeah. Of course, it wasn't so bad in the summer. We just hook them up on the chains. We didn't bother with. Then, of course, we had, in the wintertime, we had, in those LCL cars, we had a big pipe that went through and up over the top through the car.
Yep.
To put some steam
Keep it from freezing.
to keep it from freezing.
Yeah.
And before they had that, we used to roll in cans of hot water.
Oh, really?
The cream, we'd bring it down, we put in can after can of hot water right in amongst the cream
Yeah.
so they wouldn't freeze.
Yeah. I didn't know that, huh?
Then they come out with the steam pipes inside the car. Well, we didn't have to do that anymore.
Yep. Boy.
But it was real rugged. In the summertime, we had to wear overshoes. There'd be so much water
Oh, yeah, from the ice.
sloshing around in the floor where that ice was melting.
Yep.
That you get your feet soaking wet with rubbers and, you know.
Yep.
In the wintertime, of course, we had our overshoes on then, see. But that's the way it was. It was a rugged job.
And you worked Malone Yard for what, about 7 years?
Oh, yeah, all of that, yeah. Yeah, and that was a busy place.
Yes, sir.
Oh, all the feed companies, lumber companies, interconnections to New York Central. And then we'd have to make up the train when it come in.
Mm-hmm.
We'd have to throw out the Malone cars and we switch it all around.
I used to block out, what, the B&M?
Yeah, they took a switcher off in Norwood. That was the time I was working in Malone. And we'd have to switch that train out at Malone. New York Central would deliver it and they'd pull it right to... And then cars went back, like Madrids and Lisbons and all that.
Right.
That had to be put into the way freight that went to Ogdensburg from Malone.
Yep.
And then we had the ones from Malone to Alburgh.
Yep.
And all them LCL cars were all mixed in there with feeds and everything. We had to sort them. Then they always, New York Central used to get their coal from the Rutland. The New York Central bring it in, see, at Norwood, then we'd have to deliver it to New York Central at Malone Junction.
Uh-huh.
And it's coal. We used to have carload after carload of coal.
Used to be a lot of LCL at the freight house.
Yeah, and the LCL at the freight house, we had to spot it all up. A lot of it, we had so much of it at times that we'd have to spot opposite.
Okay. Put the plan.
We had number 1 and number 2 freight house tracks.
Okay.
We'd spot opposite, so they would wheel right through into the other car, see, on the side of it. Or
Yep. Wow.
they had a little platform they put between the cars.
Right in, yeah.
And they had to hire 5 and 6 men trucking.
Yep.
You know. And then they had the foreman there too, you know. He kept track of things. That Jim Malone used to butter, Armour butter. They had a place to have a carload of butter for there too. We had everything then. Everything.
Yeah.
And P.I. Pearl had all in stores.
The old paper mill.
Overalls and clothing, and we'd fill the freight house with it.
Yep.
Right to the doors with cases and cases of overalls and clothes and rubbers and shoes.
All go out LCL.
All LCL.
Wow.
Yeah.
That used to go out the back track to the old paper mill.
Yeah.
Out there where the grocery company was.
Yeah. And we used to have to get down there.
Yep.
And we'd one time we went down there. We had to put the air on the cars. And the snow was so bad that we had them on the nose of our engine, see?
Yeah.
And we'd go down through there, and of course, in that cut, there was a cut there, and it would drift in bad.
Yeah.
And this car that we had at the time had a low-slung bleeding rod.
Oh, yeah.
And the snowbank opened the bleeding rod, and we lost, and then it was so bad in there that it pulled the
pin.
It pulled the pin. The snow raised the lever, and the car took off. We went through. When we broke out of that big drift, away goes the car. With no air on it. See, the air bled off, and it pulled the pin.
Oh.
That pin lever was down, see, in the snow.
Yep. Lifted it right up.
And lifted the pin up. And there goes the car. All of a sudden, we had the headlight on the engine. It was dark, see?
Yeah.
And I see that car going out of sight. I said, oh, my God. It's all downhill, you know.
Yeah, it was. Right.
And there, across a river, over a bridge, across the highway. Well, I said, somebody don't get killed here, we're going to be awful lucky. And you know, they wouldn't believe us. What we tried to tell them.
Yeah.
We had to put that car on the cripple track and had the car knocker go over it.
Nothing wrong with it.
Finally, I had to explain it to the train master. Come up, wanted to know what happened.
Huh.
So this car goes down over the bridge. And there was a tractor trailer backed into one of the doors. And we hit that tractor trailer and swung it right around. Swung it right around.
Yeah.
And I looked in the cabin. I thought I saw a head in there. A guy's head. I went up to the tractor and I rapped on the window and he looked. What's the matter? I said, you all right? Yeah. He says, what happened? I said, you haven't got any trailer there.
It's rearranged.
Yeah. I said, your trailer's right down by the other way. Well, anyway, it derailed the car. The car went up against the building.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Straight, the building stopped.
Yeah.
Went through 2 great big piles of snow. They used to dig out, you know,
Oh, yeah.
before they get back to trucks. We went through, hit 2 of them. And that car must have been going 30 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour
Yeah,
when it went in there.
That was quite a downgrade into there, though.
Oh, steep downgrade. Boy, that car really was going. Well, we took after it with the engine. We couldn't catch it.
Yeah.
Couldn't catch it. It was gone. We didn't know what to expect when we got down there, Stephen, you know. What was going?
Kind of woke that guy up.
I get it. Never woke him up.
Oh, it didn't. That's right, too. It didn't wake him up, man.
No, I said, you all right? Yeah, he looked up. He said, yeah, what's the matter? Yeah, I'm all right. I said, you ain't got any trailer? He said, what'd you say? I said, your trailer's sideways there.
Well, it must have slid on the snow.
Yeah. You see what didn't hurt the trailer much because we hit those banks of snow and it packed between the car and the trailer.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the trailer went sideways, see?
Just nudged him out of the way.
Yeah, and then the car jumped the tracks and went inside of the building. And all that car had on it was a few grab irons that were bent.
Wow, didn't do much on the snow protector.
Very little damage.
Yeah, protected it. Yeah.
Now, if that if that had been in the summertime,
But
it going across the main road
it's been a hell of a bank.
and gone right into the river.
Yeah, probably.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah, because there's a bridge right there with a switch on it.
Jeepers. Tell you.
Yeah.
Yes.
And yeah, 'cause you didn't have much of a yard then. You used to have to switch jigs too there.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
room there?
Yeah.
With that double over a lot.
We had used to have to count the cars because what we called a bank track, they put so many cars in there. That's all.
Yeah.
So as we let them go in there, we'd count them. Peewee was the conductor. Bob Dragon and I and Peewee was the conductor. So Bob says to me, "What you got? What count you got, George?" I said, "I got 23. What do you got?" He says, "I got 23. The track's full." Now the derail way down.
Dropped it in.
And we didn't have to go down there and push, we'd count the cars, and we know we'd be all right.
Yeah.
Peewee says, no, he says, you haven't put that many cars in there. I haven't done that. 2 more. Okay. Shove them in. We shoved them in all right, and you put 2 hard over the derail out the other end.
Bill Lovett must have liked that.
Oh, I thought they pushed pretty hard. I said to Peewee, they're pushing pretty hard. I said, I think we're off the track down there somewhere. Sure enough, we go down there. Well, he says, we'll have to go down and look. We went down, there was 2 cars right up on the bank.
Yeah.
Derailed, both of them.
The bank, that'd have been like number 3 way over on right towards the bank there.
Yeah, that's what it makes the bank track. We call it the bank track.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
But we knew it hold 23 cars. Couldn't put any more in there.
Oh, God.
Tried to tell Peewee that. Oh, no. He said, you fellas, you counted wrong. I said, okay, you got the list. Put them in there, he says. I said, okay. Boy, he got mad at me. I said, I shouldn't have said it. I said, Peewee, I think you were looking for overtime.
Yeah.
You have to get down and deep re-rail those cars before the train can leave. I had to call out the wrecker, what's his name? I can't think of it.
Harold
West. Had to call him. He had to bring the cables down there, cable the wheels.
Yep.
So that they wouldn't leave the center, see, and leave the wheels there in the car field.
Yep.
You'd have to wire those wheels up, see, along so that when we started pulling,
Come back with them, yeah.
it would come with the wheels, and didn't leave the wheels there. As center pins,
Yep, that's right there, yeah.
And finally we got them. Oh my God, we were, 5 hours
Oh, boy.
getting them back on the track. So one was out, almost 2 car lengths from the
From the track.
from the tracks. We had to haul that son of a gun back.
You really put that thing out there.
I guess we'd pull it about 3-4 feet. Whoop, gotta have another hitch, and 2 or 3 feet more. Whoop, gotta have another hitch. Oh boy.
Yeah. And then you made up the 2-way freights. There was a Malone way freight and Ogdensburg way.
Right, and we'd have to make those way freights up. And of course, in that train, they had cars to feed from Malone.
Yeah.
When we first went to work, before the train would come in, we'd go get the empties out of the feed companies.
Yeah.
They were going south, and get them all lined up, all the southbounds, and the northbounds we'd set off to when the train come through next night, they could pick them up.
Yeah.
We'd get everything all spotted up nicely. Wouldn't they come in with a car feed?
Gotta go break it up again.
We had to go break them up again.
Yep.
Switch them all out again. But sometimes we were lucky, we didn't have to do that.
They really didn't know it was coming ahead of time then.
That's right. Then they had to bottle gas there too.
Yeah, Baker.
And Baker. And the GLF feed company was in behind that, so we'd have to go get the gas car off there, set it off, spot up our GLF cars, feed cars.
Yeah.
Then put the gas car back on spot.
Huh.
Then we go up and there's another place that was lumber, and we'd have to spot that up. Brick, cars of brick.
Yep.
Lumber, sheetrock.
Yep.
Oh boy, I'll tell you, 8 hours wouldn't do it,
Yeah.
Over time, all the time, we just couldn't keep up with it.
Yeah. Yeah, by the time you get done with switching jigs too.
Yeah,
You had a lot of work in there, and then you got the way freights made up.
yeah. We were switching one night. Eddie Bedore was with us. was a brakeman. I was running the job. I had the list and everything. We had a lot of pulpwood cars.
Yeah.
So I said, well, we're not going to switch with them. We'll take them up and set them off. And I said, just shove them in the clear. Put a brake on them, shove them in the clear. And I said, come right back, and we'll go to switching. So Bedore takes them up there. What he did, there was a car in there with a handbrake on it. So he knew that, see? So he cuts them off on the fly. And this was an empty down in there. And it hit the car. There was a hobo in there. Out come.
You didn't know what it
It did. It wasn't too far across, you know, and I could see this guy staggering out of the car. I said, what the hell is that? Went up there and it was a hobo. He was in that empty car for the night. in that I think it was, I think it was 10 cars of pulpwood. No, it's heavy.
Yeah.
He just cut them off and let him run down and hit that poor little empty car. Boy, it slammed the door open and
Out he come.
out he come.
Huh.
One time, there was a hobo. This was just before I went up there. He was sleeping, and he using the rail for a pillow for his head.
Yeah.
And we had a cattle chute there. We had to go down and spot the cattle chute. And we did that, they did, and geez, they run right over the old hobo's head.
Wow.
Yeah.
God.
Used to be a lot up in those days, you know.
Yeah.
During Depression years.
Yeah, rolled the rail.
Boy, we'd come out of Ogdensburg on the milk, and they'd be in between the cars. We'd have to go up and put them off.
Yeah.
For it to get killed, you know, riding in between those cars like that.
Yeah, they would have. Huh.
One time we come out, we had 20 cars of coal we used to spot here at Alburgh. And we got started. I don't know, we missed this guy. He must have got on after we checked the train. We get going. Here he is sitting up on top of the coal car there. There were wooden cars in, you know.
Yeah.
And he's sitting up there waving his arms. And he's having the greatest time you ever saw. Riding up on top of the coal.
Okay.
Hobo.
Yeah.
So we let him go. I was not going to stop the train. Just go throw him off. But, you know, we didn't want him to get hurt or anything, you know. Of course, they probably hoboed it on the rails for so long, they probably knew more than we did.
Knew what they were doing, yeah.
So we kind of stopped that business of throwing them off. Newtown went up one time, the guy wasn't going to get off. Said, I'm not getting off. Newtown went up and threw him off.
Big enough fellow to do it.
Yeah. The conductor told me to go get rid of you. You go someplace else. Oh, we had a lot of laughs. And
yeah. Well, let's see.
We used to have circus trains, you know.
Oh, yeah.
101.
Yep.
We used to have that. We set it out there at Malone Junction. And they'd unload it there, and they had to right by the fairgrounds there, you know. Yeah, we had circus trains and everything those days.
Yeah, yeah. I can remember.
Milk trains, coal trains.
Used to be time when you go to the fair, these guys would come up with their sheep, and they'd ride in the boxcar with the sheep.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. We had a fellow that used to bring sheep to the fair.
Yeah, he'd ride right in the boxcar.
He'd ride right in the boxcar.
Yeah, I remember that coming through Alburgh here.
Yeah, yeah. And he'd take him up to the fair week.
Because he was going to, one time he come off the D&H, and they picked him up at Ross's Point, and then he was going to Essex Fair.
Yeah.
They interchanged at Alburgh, and he was down on the interchange there, and so Bob Rickson said to me, go down in that boxcar and see if that guy wants anything. I thought he's kidding me. I go down, there's a guy in there with the sheep. The door was open, he's sitting in the road with the sheep.
Yeah. We used to have a carload of hogs for Mackenzie, Burlington.
Oh, yeah.
So, full car, just hogs.
Yep.
We used to take them up, didn't want to switch with them, you know. You take them up and set them off. This was the night job, see.
Yeah. Is that Malone?
At Alburgh here.
Oh, yeah, Alburgh.
Put them up on the scale track, see, out of the way.
Yeah.
Then we go to switching. And the last thing we do, of course, Burlington's our next stop, see.
Put them on the head end.
We go up and get the hogs, put them on the head end. Well, I went up there. You talk about, it was just getting daylight. If you ever heard a man snore, a pig will snore just like a man.
Oh, yeah.
And you take probably 40 hogs in there all snoring.
Quite a racket.
And it was quite a racket. I was a long ways away and I could hear it, you know. Boy, they were, you know, snoring away.
That was their last snore, though.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we'd,
years ago we used to run the cattle trains, remember?
oh, yes.
Saturday nights.
Yep. We used to go up with the freight train. We'd go up with the pulpwood for Carthage.
Yep.
They had a big paper mill there at Carthage.
Yeah.
And we'd have a solid pulp train. Then coming back, we'd have the cattle.
The cattle train, yeah.
Yeah. Of course, it was the solid pulp. We'd set out we'd load into these cattle cars.
Okay.
Yeah. And the guy used to give us $5 to help him.
Yeah, it was the farmer's meet.
Yeah. We'd come along North Lawrence, and they'd have, on the siding, it had the calves tied to the rail.
Yeah.
And we'd have to untie them and
Put them in the car.
pick them up and throw them up in the car.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, of course, $5 in those days, a lot of money.
Yeah. You know, that was for the whole crew.
Oh, that's $5.
The conductor never did any work. He'd take 3 and give,
Yeah, give that to the other guys.
yeah, give us $1 apiece.
He's in charge, Joe.
Yeah. That was Oliver.
Oh, Lenny Oliver.
Yeah.
What they used to call him?
Hard boil.
That's right, because he had temper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That wraps up this week's episode of High Green. If you'd like to be on the show, or if you know anybody that has stories or memories of the Boston and Maine Railroad, you could reach out to us. Please send us an email at bmrrhs@gmail.com, or you can send us a message right on Facebook. Hope you enjoyed tonight's episode, and we're looking forward to having you back for next time.